reading.
Still sending the opening crawl, eh? Still worth 15 cents.
Leia leads a brave resistance that will only account for 5 minutes of screen time for a legendary character.
I get what you're saying, but you know there's still 2 more movies, right? They could still give Leia more to do. If anything, I'd say it's more frustrating that Luke has so little screen time in this film. Sorry. I told myself that I would hold back on sharing my problems with this trilogy, so I'm gonna try and do that.
Long after you've either finished reading that shit or dismissed it altogether, it's still scrolling by.
Yeah, because that's how opening crawls work.
Dark Shadow of an Evil Ship gives the finger to an audience hoping not to see a remake of A New Hope.
So, just seeing an evil ship at the beginning makes audiences guess that this movie is going to be a remake of A New Hope? Didn't Empire also begin with a Star Destroyer? That movie didn't remake A New Hope, did it? I mean, you would know, considering you seen that movie.
Also, if a Star Destroyer's shadow is this large and looming, then it's either super close to this galaxy's sun, or else this is a tiny-ass planet. Or you're just having fun with visuals and don't really care about scale.
Or the Star Destroyer is super close to the camera and is blocking the planet from the camera's view. Like, what? You couldn't figure that out? And we're supposed to trust you to point out flaws in films?
BB-8 is an obvious attempt to sell toys. Where can I buy one?
So were C-3PO and R2-D2 arguably, and I don't remember you saying anything about that.
Here, this is how you close your hand.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
Without the Jedi, there can be no balance in the Force.
Funny, since I once heard that Anakin was prophesied to bring balance to the Force, and he weren't no Jedi. Well, not long-term anyway.
When you say long-term, how long are you thinking of? Because Anakin was a Jedi for 13 years before he turned into Darth Vader. Heck, some people will argue that the title of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, is actually a reference to Anakin, so a Jedi did bring balance to the Force. Temporarily.
Look, I realize you don't want to get shot at, but how is taking control of a ship cannon instead of taking off a good idea here?
Dude, Poe's trying to leave, and the First Order just damaged the X-Wing. This is the only thing he can do right now.
Thankfully for the plot, those 2 overachiever stormtroopers who shot at him actually damaged his ship enough to keep him from taking off. I guess they missed the memo about how they're supposed to be horrible at aiming.
Oh, come on, Jeremy. If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. You shouldn't be sending stormtroopers for actually hitting their targets because it's an actual sin that they miss, right? That's why they get mocked for that, even if it's not entirely true.
You take this. It's safer with you than it is with me.
I learned about this from the historical documents. Leia did it 38 years ago, so it should work for us.
Are you implying that it didn't work when Leia did it? Because they were able to destroy the first Death Star after she put the plans inside R2.
Also, why is it safer with a dumbass droid than a savvy pro-pilot human being? Couldn't you literally bury it in the sand and it'd be safer than with either one of you assholes?
Jeremy just suggested that they buried the map to find Luke Skywalker in the sand, where they would then have trouble finding it because they wouldn't want to put a signal there so the First Order doesn't find it.
Here, let me mark you so people can tell you're the conflicted stormtrooper. Oh yeah, and before I die, there is another Skywalker.
Jeremy points things out on the screen cliche.
The map to Skywalker. We know you found it.
Wait a minute, the guy who vanished left behind a map? Like, a physical f***ing map that any asshole could stumble upon and find you with?
Well, Luke wasn't the one who left the map behind, since we find out in the next movie that he didn't even want to be found. Also, what do you mean, physical? You know you're sitting a Star Wars movie, right? The universe would have used holograms for everything?
Well, I think it's cool that Kylo Ren stopped this blaster bolt in midair. Was he really dedicating some of his dark power to keep it in midair the whole time?
Yes.
That one explosion must mean Poe died. I wish they never programmed depression inside of me.
How do you know that's what he was thinking? He probably thought that explosion could have killed Poe, but he also could think maybe he survived.
And Poe appears to be the only prisoner they took from the planet. I guess because Kylo was so sure he knew about the map. But then, so did Max von Sydow's character, and Kylo just wasted that guy's ass on the planet's surface, so what gives?
Kylo killed Lord Santeca because he was angry at him for telling him that he still had some light side in him. He got emotionally distracted, basically. I'm sure he could at least figure out that he probably gave the map to someone, too.
Finn Trooper walks in here, and there is no one on the left side, but as soon as he removes his helmet, boom! Sudden Captain Phasma.
Jeremy says as soon as he removes his helmet, even though there were a few seconds Finn stood there without the helmet, giving Phasma enough time to walk in.
In its quest to be unique and Star Warsian, movie unfortunately rips off Oblivion.
Arbitrary movie reference.
Why does she park her speeder all the way out here by itself, especially when she has to f***ing drag all this heavy shit a long distance after parking?
Maybe she could get a ticket for a parking violation.
This thing probably died because it was trying to walk in a desert.
I think Jeremy just said this so he can point out the AT-AT on the screen.
Luckily, BB-8 is found by someone who is profoundly important to the story.
No, Rey wasn't important to the story until she ran into BB-8. You only think she's important because the movie showed her in her day-to-day life, but what it was actually doing was showing the person who would eventually become important.
It's in a droid. A BB unit.
Let's leave this prisoner I got that information from alive for now, just in case we all forget that information I just force grabbed from his brain. Definitely don't kill this dude, okay? Got it?
I mean, to be fair, Poe is a resistance fighter. He could still have information about where their base is if they need to know.
Why in the f***ing is there a tether on this TIE fighter?
Jeremy has never heard of fuel. Oh, that's right. He gets upset about it existing in the next movie. I guess it makes sense he hasn't realized that's what's happening here.
All right, we gotta take out as many of these cannons as we can, or we're not gonna get very far.
Hey, why not just fly perpendicular to the ship? Like, away and shit. Eventually the cannons will be out of range to hit you, right? Do you have to attack them? Or could you maybe just dodge their fire for a few seconds and f***ing leave?
Isn't it still safer to shoot the cannon so they don't get shot down? You know, something that actually happens later on.
FN2187 reported to my division, was evaluated and sent to reconditioning.
But obviously not, because he was simply allowed to wander freely about the ship.
Or he was, but either he chose not to go, or the reconditioning didn't work.
Good thing Poe left his jacket behind for no reason, so that Finn could pick it up and be seen by BB-8 later.
They're in a desert, dude. Do you know how hot it is? Honestly, it's a sin that Finn wears it.
Is the desert eating this ship? Why didn't it do that to all the other wrecked ships on the planet?
Rey literally told BB-8 to not go near quicksand like this, which implies that there are some particular areas around Jakku like this, but not the entire planet. The other wrecked ships just happen to crash onto safe ground.
Him.
Instead of just calling out to Finn and maybe trying to talk to him normally, Rey goes into full attack mode immediately because BB-8 thinks he sees Poe's apparently one-of-a-kind brown jacket.
BB-8 thinks that Finn stole it.
Also, Millennium Falcon just happens to be on Jakku for some reason.
They later explain why the Falcon is on Jakku. Someone stole it from Han, and then it was stolen by a couple other smugglers, and eventually got stolen by Unkar Plutt.
You ever fly this thing?
No! This ship hasn't flown in years!
Apparently, every ship in the universe is easy to access, requiring no keys or combinations of any kind, and are ready to fly on a moment's notice.
Well, it is set in a galaxy far, far away.
Nice job!
I'm getting pretty good at this.
That's great, kid. Don't get cocky.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
And after that, there were no more bad guys, even though the Star Destroyer with Kylo Ren and red-headed Hitler was presumably just orbiting this planet and In fact, here's a Star Destroyer just chilling out near Jakku, who did not see Finn and Rey escape the planet in the Falcon. Just FYI.
Apparently, this Star Destroyer wasn't around the same area that the Falcon left.
Yay, it's Han Solo and Chewbacca. One question, though. Why the f*** are they flying around in this system at this very moment in time? They just happened to find their old ship like it was gifted to them. And yeah, they were looking for a signal, but they still got here right when Rey and Finn got into space.
You just answered your own question. They were looking for a signal. Han literally explains later on that they were looking for the Falcon, and that it wasn't a coincidence that they found it.
I got a bad feeling about this.
What? You heard those monsters screaming at a distance? Of course you got a bad feeling about this. This is not the kind of strange, odd, bad feeling that classic Star Wars characters have when they go into the unknown. This is a prequel-like bad feeling where the danger is right in front of them.
Are you suggesting danger was right in front of them whenever they said this line in the prequels? Because I seem to remember Obi-Wan saying it when he and Qui-Gon entered the Trade Federation's control ship.
I have a bad feeling about this.
And also that suggestion that this kind of thing doesn't happen in the original trilogy is odd too, since Han literally said it when they were surrounded by Ewoks who were clearly trying to eat them.
I have a really bad feeling about this. We shall see.
By the way, is this the rented space where Thanos and Sinestro conduct all their space conspiracy business?
Referencing the Green Lantern movie.
It's at this point you had a nagging feeling in the back of your mind that this whole movie was simply repurposing everything from A New Hope, and you haven't even gotten to the new Death Star yet.
Same thing I say about these videos.
Maybe we should have seen this in Return of the Jedi, but Luke decided to bring that Darth Vader mask with him when he escaped the second Death Star, but why? To symbolically burn it in the Ewok bonfire later? The Death Star was going to blow it up anyway, and way better than that fire could. But now Kylo Ren has it, meaning some enterprising Ewok sold that on eBay to Darth Benjamin 1983 since we last saw it.
Luke was able to get Anakin's body on that Imperial shuttle. Why not the mask too?
Like all of them, I was taken from a family I'll never know. On my first battle, I made a choice.
That was his first battle? He's like 30. How f***ing long do stormtroopers train?
According to Wikipedia, Finn was born in 11 ABY, and since this movie takes place in 34 ABY, that makes him 23 years old right now.
Also, they sent a rookie stormtrooper to help find Luke's map.
Why is that a sin? They only needed to find a map. It's not like they were going to a battle or anything.
Key to Rey's past just happens to be in this remote and random bar.
It's not really a key to her past. That vision she had literally was just a bunch of random, unconnected segments. If anything, all it did was tell Rey that it was the beginning of her journey into becoming a Jedi. We even hear Obi-Wan say, "These are your first steps."
That lightsaber was Luke's, and his father's before him.
Huh? You mean the one that he was holding when Vader cut his hand off in Cloud City? You mean someone found that and now it's here?
Yes, it's safe to assume a scavenger found it and it ended up in Maz's castle, considering she deals with these kinds of people. It's relatively simple.
And what's the point of this anyway? They blew up 5 planets, none of which we know anything about. And for what? At least when the Empire blew up Alderaan, we knew it was Leia's home planet. Why not just go ahead and blow up several other planets while you're at it and just end this thing? You don't even need to find Luke anymore.
Are you freaking serious right now? This is the New Republic, the organization that was created after the Empire was destroyed 30 years ago. The First Order has just destroyed them, so now the Resistance will have an even harder time to overthrow them. The real sin is blowing up the New Republic so quickly the way they did, undoing all of Luke, Leia, and Han's accomplishments in the original trilogy.
Where'd you get that?
A good question. For another time.
Well, that's a tidy screenwriter's trick to get out of explaining shit.
Again, it's a fairly simple explanation. I'm not going to say it again.
Raider!
So he has this badass staff thing that can deflect lightsabers and shit, but he still threw down his guns so he could get into a mano-a-mano sword fight, which is some bullshit.
Quick interjection here, but while I agree with most of what the Birdman says, this is one of the few I disagree with. He says that Finn could just block this stormtrooper's blaster bolts with a lightsaber. Problem is, that still requires training. Remember A New Hope? Luke had to learn how to block that droid's blasting, meaning it's not something people can just do. However, I do have an alternate explanation for this sin. This stormtrooper is clearly pissed off at Finn for betraying the First Order, and so wants to beat him up and make him suffer.
Goddamn C-3PO.
Hating on C-3PO.
So, Leia should be pretty one with the Force by now, right? She's had a good 30 years, and they made such a big deal about it in the original trilogy that if anything happened to Luke, her untapped Force magic could save the universe. But it appears she's the same old Leia. Still awesome, but not a Jedi.
That's because she was training for a bit, but then decided to leave to go and raise Ben. This is further proven when she survives being blown out into space and flies back inside a spaceship.
And even worse, it matches no charted system on record.
I don't know how there's a map of this place, unless Luke spent all this time charting it, then found his way back to civilization, then decided to vanish. The movie so far makes us believe that Luke got upset that Kylo turned to the dark side, and in shame, he vanished. But somehow he left 2 pieces of a map of an uncharted place just before flying away.
Again, Luke didn't make this map. Otherwise, why did he ask Rey how she found him? What actually happened was that the location of the first Jedi Temple was marked by the Empire before they fell, and then the Resistance and First Order grabbed pieces of it to put together and create a map. Lord Santeca was a friend of Luke's, and he had the most crucial piece.
If you're a fan of girls, then this moment pulled you straight out of the movie. Adam Driver is a good and appealing actor, but once you do something as unique as his character on that show, the thought of him being a Sith Lord is hilarious.
So, basically this sin is that actors can't play different characters. Try saying that with Robert Pattinson becoming one of the best Batmans after he was best known for being a sparkly vampire.
Then the Resistance must be destroyed before they get to Skywalker.
Why didn't you just destroy them already? You clearly have the power to do it. Why is their ability or non-ability to find Luke so important to that decision? Just do it already.
Because they didn't know where the Resistance base even was. Right after Snoke says this, Hux explains that he had a tracker placed on one of their ships that led them to the base, which supports what I'm saying.
You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open.
Rey, realizing she might have Jedi powers and attempting to use them on the fly, is one of the best things about this movie, and I'm not even shy about giving a sin off.
Okay, I said I wasn't going to say out loud what I don't like about this movie, but Jeremy then did this, so I'm going to make an exception here. This was a dumb moment. Rey literally thought the Jedi were a myth like a day ago, so how would she even know what a mind trick is? Even if she somehow heard of it, how would she know how to use it without any training? This is the first hint of her being a Mary Sue in these movies, and it's something Jeremy should have sinned.
Welcome to the J.J. Abrams Roadshow. Can you guess how many actors in this scene were once in well-regarded J.J. Abrams TV shows? The clock starts now.
Apparently, it's a sin for directors to work with actors multiple times. So it's a sin for Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan to make every movie together. That's definitely sinful on my side.
It's another Death Star.
I wish that were the case, Major.
You see, because this new weapon is way larger than the already huge Death Star, it's completely different.
Han literally makes that point in this very scene. The movie agrees with you on that.
Some kind of thermal oscillator.
There is one. Precinct 47.
Okay, Finn spent time on the Starkiller base as a stormtrooper, but how does he know that
Because he spent time on Starkiller base as a stormtrooper.
Some things never change.
True. You still drive me crazy.
Star Wars General Hospital.
The second General Hospital reference in a Star Wars movie.
Super important Starkiller base. You'd think they'd have surveillance cameras basically everywhere, but they do not.
Because they would totally have a camera looking at a wall.
Wait, Is there going to be enough room in this compartment when that big metal thing goes back into it?
Yes.
And their weapon will be fully charged in 10 minutes. It would take a miracle to save us now.
C-3PO somehow never saw Star Wars.
Jeremy somehow never saw Star Wars. Wait, no, I'm not copying that joke. Don't make me.
Ben!
Yep, Ben was named after Obi-Wan, the guy neither Leia nor Han had a real relationship with.
Considering they knew that he would most likely be trained as a Jedi by Luke, it's possible Luke had a hand in naming him. Or if you want to count the Kenobi show as canon, we did see Obi-Wan save Leia from the Empire twice, so she has enough of a personal connection to want to name him Ben.
Anyone that doesn't know at this point that Han is dead just doesn't know movies, and it makes me wish the film did more to hide this reveal.
Yeah, but even if you're going to kill Han, couldn't they at least give him a more heroic sacrifice? Sorry, hold back, Captain Vader, hold back!
Leia can sense when Han has been killed halfway across the galaxy, but still no idea where her living Jedi brother is without a f***ing map. Do I have that right?
Yes, you have that right. Luke even made sure to close himself off from the Force so no one else would be able to find him.
Come get it!
Kylo does not have to engage with Finn in a lightsaber duel. He can just throw him with a little Force magic, but he gets in a lightsaber duel anyway. I realize it's possible Finn is a Force user and doesn't know it. In fact, I'd say it's positive, since otherwise someone as powerful as Kylo's been shown to be should finish Finn off in about 3 seconds flat. Did you see what he did to Rey? And she is a Force user.
Yep, now we know that Finn is in fact Force sensitive. But even if he isn't, Sith have a tendency to toy with their rivals. Just look at the way Dooku treated Anakin, and also the fact that Luke lasted as long as he did against Vader.
Tonight, the role of Lord of the Rings Eagles will be played by Chewbacca.
Arbitrary movie reference.
Right now, Rey's thinking, how do I tell this woman I stood and gaped as her husband was betrayed and killed by a guy we all should have realized was evil? Or she's thinking, this is a really long hug with a stranger.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
R2-D2, meet a better you. BB-8, meet the previous holder of the cutest Star Wars droid title.
Hold the frick on. Did you just say that BB-8 is better than R2-D2, the baddest droid in the galaxy? That's worth a few extra.
I still don't understand this map. Like, do you actually need to follow the path Luke draws out in orange on this thing? Wouldn't a simple dot that says I am here suffice? And leaving R2 with everything except one missing piece? Were you worried someone was going to hack into him?
Are you kidding me right now? You seriously asked why R2 had only one piece of the map missing and then provided a scenario for why doing that was a good idea? Like, hello? We're talking about Luke friggin' Skywalker, the hero of the rebellion.
Having found her long-lost brother she's been searching for years, Leia sends the strange girl she just met and Chewbacca. Why isn't she going herself?
To be fair, Leia has a resistance to run. And heck, the First Order arrives presumably the very next day, so she needs to worry about evacuating them before that.
Also, where the f*** is Lando?
On Pisana.
Do you think Luke was maybe a passenger on Oceanic Flight 815?
Arbitrary TV reference.
And honestly, I'd rather have the movie end with Rey flying off to look for Luke, as opposed to this final scene of her finding him and him looking old and tired. This entire final scene is fan service, plain and simple, and it makes no sense for the actual story. The story, as presented, ends more naturally on the mystery of not knowing if Rey even finds Luke. But whatever, you sold your toys, so who gives a shit, right?
How does this make no sense for the story? The entire plot of this movie has been find Luke Skywalker, and it ends with them finally accomplishing that goal. And that makes no sense. So, does Rogue One now make no sense for it to end with the Rebels stealing the Death Star plans, even though the whole point of that movie was stealing the Death Star plans? Because then we don't get the Vader hallway scene, and that's definitely sinful.